morning and welcome to the White House. Today we take an essential step in defeating terrorism while protecting the constitutional rights of all Americans. With my signature, this law will give intelligence and law enforcement officials important new tools to fight a present danger. I commend the House and Senate for the hard work they put into this legislation. Members of Congress and their staffs spent long nights and weekends to get this important bill to my desk. I appreciate their efforts and bipartisanship in passing this new law. I want to thank the director of the FBI and the director of the CIA for waging an incredibly important part on the two-front war, one overseas and a front here at home. The changes effective today will help counter a threat like no other our nation has ever faced. We've seen the enemy in the murder of thousands of innocent, unsuspecting people. They recognize no barrier of morality. They have no conscience. The terrorists cannot be reasoned with. These terrorists must be pursued, they must be defeated, and they must be brought to justice. The elected branches of our government and both political parties are united in our resolve to find and stop and punish those who would do harm to the American people. It is now my honor to sign into law the USA Patriot Act of 2001.
They all say very simply, the government shall not infringe on these rights no matter what. If the government can take them away at will, then they're not rights at all. They're really just privileges that are granted or revoked by an authority. And every time they suspend rights and then pretend to give them back again, they establish a dangerous precedent. The rights they give back are never quite as strong as the ones that they took away.
Where they want to be at this moment in history, as we're looking at efforts across the country to prevent people from being able to exercise their fundamental rights. Go ahead.
Obviously, it's not the piece of paper called the Bill of Rights that protects our freedoms. We have to actually believe in it. Our leaders have to believe it with sufficient loyalty to counterbalance the temptations of power. And even more importantly, our citizens have to believe that their rights so loyally that they stand up for them, even when it means taking a personal risk. After all, the Constitution isn't just a legal document. It's also an inspirational document. And that's why, if you treasure your freedom, you better elect leaders who are inspired by it and who will wield it to inspire others. And I'm sorry to say that again and again throughout our history, our leaders have failed to respect it. Again and again, they have cited some pretext to suspend and volunteer and violate our constitutional rights. There's always a reason why right now the rights are an inconvenience that we can't afford. It was the Red Scare in the 1920s. It was Joe McCarthy in the 1950s. It was civil rights protests and the Vietnam War protesters in the 1960s. It was the war on drugs in the 1970s. It was the war on terror after 2001, and most recently, it was the COVID pandemic.
Of this extraordinary magazine, George, which is a hoot of a magazine. I thought you were a lawyer.
I was.
What happened?
Well, we decided, I mean, actually taking a cue from folks like yourself and you around the 1992 election, that there was an opportunity here to change the definition of a political magazine. Certainly the way Americans were accessing information about politics and politicians was changing. Candidates were appearing on late night talk shows, on talk radio, on sitcoms, and there was a kind of a leveling process, and while the rest of media clearly had caught up with that, we felt that political magazines per se hadn't.
Your mother was a hell of an editor at Doubleday.
That's what I hear.
Would she have liked George?
I think she would have.